If your father ever told you he was fine, there's a chance he wasn't. There's a chance he buried something he loved so you wouldn't have to bury your own dreams. I didn't realise my dad had a dream until I found it in a dusty cardboard box in the garage. And by the time I understood what he gave up for me, it was too late to thank him properly. I grew up in a small Texas town where high school football was bigger than politics, and Friday nights meant stadium lights and barbecue smoke drifting through the air. My dad worked construction. Early mornings, sunburned neck, steel-toe boots that sat by the door like they were part of the family. He wasn't a loud man. He wasn't a soft man either. He was steady, reliable, predictable. And I mistook that for ordinary. Every morning at 5 a.m, I'd hear the garage door rumble open. His truck would cough to life. By the time I came downstairs for school, he was already gone. Dinner was usually the only time we saw him fully relaxed. Even then, he never talked much about himself. He'd ask about my grades, my baseball games, my plans, but never his own. When I was 10, I told him I wanted to be a musician. Mum smiled politely. Dad just nodded. "That takes work," he said. "I'll work," I replied confidently. He didn't laugh. He didn't discourage me. He just looked at me in a way I couldn't read back then. At 14, I begged for a guitar. We didn't have extra money, I knew that. But that Christmas, there it was, wrapped in cheap silver paper, an acoustic guitar leaning against the couch. I ran to hug him. He hugged back, tight, longer than usual. What I didn't know then was that he had sold something to buy it. I found out years later what it was, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Through high school, I poured everything into music. Garage bands, open mic nights at the local diner, uploading shaky videos to YouTube. Dad never missed a performance. He stood in the back, arms crossed, boots dusty, nodding slightly when I played well. He never said, "You're amazing." He said, "You're getting better," which somehow meant more. When I got accepted into a music program in Nashville, I thought he'd hesitate. Instead, he surprised me. "You're going," he said simply. "It's expensive," Mum added carefully. "I'll pick up extra shifts," he replied, and he did. I didn't see it then, but his shoulders started drooping more. His hands cracked deeper. He came home later, ate quietly, fell asleep in his chair before the news ended. I thought that was just adulthood. I thought that was normal. College was hard, competitive, brutal, honestly. There were kids there who had grown up with private vocal coaches and studio equipment. I had my silver-wrapped guitar and calloused fingers. I called home once a week. Dad always asked the same question. "You quitting?" "No." "Good." That was our emotional language. Halfway through my second year, I hit a wall. I wasn't getting gigs. I wasn't standing out. I called home one night, ready to say I was coming back. Dad was quiet for a long time. Then he said something different. "Do you know why I never stopped you?" I didn't answer. Because someone stopped me. That was the first time he had ever talked about himself. He told me that when he was 19, he wanted to be a country singer. Not famous, just good enough to make a living playing bars across Texas. He had a band. They were decent. They even had a shot at signing with a small label in Dallas. But then my grandfather got sick. Bills piled up. His younger siblings needed help. So he quit, sold his guitar, took the first construction job he could find. I figured dreams were for people with backup plans, he said quietly. I didn't know what to say. I don't regret you, he added quickly, or your mum. I just regret not trying long enough. That sentence rearranged something inside me. I went back to class the next day differently. Not because I suddenly believed I'd be famous, but because I realised I wasn't just chasing my dream anymore. I was finishing his. Years passed. Small gigs turned into bigger ones. I never became a superstar, but I made a living. I toured regionally. I recorded albums. One summer, I was invited to play at a decent-sized country festival in Austin. 5,000 people. Nothing massive, but to us, it was everything. I called Dad. You coming? He didn't hesitate. Wouldn't miss it. The night of the show, I scanned the crowd before stepping on stage. There he was, front row, arms crossed, boots dusty, just like at the diner open mics. Halfway through the set, I stopped the band. I want to dedicate this next song to the man who taught me what sacrifice looks like. He shifted uncomfortably. I smiled. He gave up his dream so I could chase mine. The crowd clapped. He didn't. He just looked down. After the show, he hugged me tighter than ever before. You did it, he said. We did, I corrected. A year later, he had a heart attack. It wasn't instant. There were hospital visits, warnings. We thought we had time. One afternoon, I went back home to help Mum clean the garage while he rested. That's when I found the box. Old photos, cassette tapes, set lists from the 1980s, and at the bottom, a guitar case. I opened it slowly. Inside was a worn, beautiful acoustic guitar. Not mine. His. I brought it inside. Why didn't you tell me you still had it? I asked. He smiled weakly from the recliner. Bought it back 5 years ago. With what money? He shrugged. Didn't matter. Why? He looked at me like I was still 10 years old. Because I wanted to remember who I was before I became who I needed to be. I sat there holding his guitar and finally understood. He didn't give up his dream because he failed. He gave it up because he loved us more. He passed 3 months later. At his funeral, I didn't sing one of my songs. I sang one of his, from an old cassette tape I had restored. His voice was younger, hopeful, full of ambition. And in that church, filled with construction workers and family and neighbours, I realised something powerful. He never really stopped being a musician. He just changed his audience. Instead of stages and spotlights, he performed sacrifice. He played responsibility. He sang stability. Now I keep both guitars in my studio, mine and his. Sometimes when I write, I use his. The wood feels different, heavier, fuller, like it carries stories in it. If your dad ever says he's fine, look closer. Ask questions. Because there may be a version of him you've never met, a dream he folded up quietly, a stage he stepped away from, a song he never finished. And maybe, just maybe, you're living it for him.